ladies and gentlemen, it's Rei-Lin, and I'm back with some more Secret World Legends today. I just thought I would do a hopefully quick video overview of how the weapons have changed and the whole skill wheel thing has gone away and replaced with this new system with earning your actives and your passives for the weapons. Mainly for people that play the old Secret World and are still maybe hesitant about jumping into the new one, considering a lot has indeed changed, at least as far as progression goes. But for new people that might be thinking, well, what's this about? I don't understand. I thought I would kind of go over just a little bit about the game when it comes to the weapons and your upgrading and your passives and things like that. So, without further ado, I'm going to try to jump in here and just more or less start with the weapons that I'm using basically since the start of the game, and that is the shotgun and the fist weapon. So every weapon type you can see, from assault rifles, pistols, all the way up through elemental, chaos, blood, the fist weapons, the hammers, the blades, you have an active and a passive tab. I'm going to talk about the active abilities first. Generally you have, as you can see, every weapon has 3 skill lines. Like they have here, we have crackdown, we have control, we have enforce. Now, this is specific to the shotgun. All the other weapons obviously have troubleshooting, gunplay, bullet hell, for example, with the pistols. Generally, you have these lines tend to focus on specific things. Crackdown is more like a single target, bursty damage kind of line. Control is more about stunning and healing yourself. Enforce is more about taking a lot of aggro and tanking. That's kind of what the shotgun's main role was, or could be if you want to go that way, is that it's a good tank spec. It's a good tanking weapon, I should say. Hammer is another one. Blade is another one. So there are different ways to build your character based on exactly what you're wanting to do in the game. What role do you want to have? But every active ability costs you AP, as you can see down here, and as you go across it gets slightly more expensive until you get to the final capstone here, the big square at the end, which gives you passively a big bonus, and then you can upgrade that even more as you get to the ends of, say, the other trees that also have capstones like this. As you unlock more and more of these capstones at the end, the bonuses that you can apply go up, and you can just make it more and more powerful for your favorite weapons. Now, what you're looking at here is, as you unlock these skills, you can put them down here on your bar wherever you want. But there are different types. Like this says shotgun basic ability. You can see right underneath pump action. And then over here, if we go to both barrels, it's a shotgun power ability. Now this is only important because you are limited by the type of things you can put on your bar. For example, the shotgun basic ability. Any weapon in the game has a basic ability. Some have multiple basic abilities. A basic ability means it doesn't use your energy. Your weapons have a cap of 15 energy, and as you use your skills, each skill costs so much energy, plus maybe something of your gimmick. Like, for example, every skill with my shotgun uses a shell, and it uses energy, so you have to kind of micromanage that a little bit. But the basic abilities don't use any energy at all. It's basically, oh crap, I'm out of energy. I need to be able to do damage, though. So you have a basic ability here, and another one like here. Shotgun basic ability is scatter shot. So I have like a single target, and I have a more of a conal AoE to cleave multiple mobs. In Secret World, you're usually taking on multiple enemies at once. It's not all the time, but there are quite a few mobs. So being able to do single target and then switch up to an AoE is very important in this game if you want to not get the crap beat out of you. Now, if you're kind of making yourself a tank, that's not nearly as detrimental as if you're, say, going pistols and very heavy on single target. You can get overwhelmed pretty quickly in this game if you're not careful. But that I just wanted to point out, like a power ability, I have a couple of power abilities, like Raging Shot, I have both barrels. So you can have multiple power abilities, but you can only have one basic ability, and then when you get to these on the end, and every weapon is the same, you can see they all have the same thing. At the end, these are your elite abilities. Now you can only use one, so only one can be on your bar at a time. So you have to kind of pick and choose. They all do something very different from another. This one just, I do a conal attack multiple times in a row. This one I actually launch rockets into the air and they come screaming back down in a giant AoE around me over several seconds. This one knocks everything down in front of me like a shockwave. So they all share the same elite ability status, and they also tend to, as far as I've seen, all share the same 20-second cooldown. So this isn't something you're going to fire off every 2 or 3 minutes that you have to save. You can almost use these every single battle that you get into. They're very, very powerful. They're very useful. And every weapon, like I said, as you can see, shares the same kind of idea here. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of the whole active ability thing. You simply unlock them as you go along a certain line. And you obviously have your own choices on what types of skills you want to use, what they do. Some, like this one, it's instant. It acts like an elite ability in the idea that it has a 20-second cooldown, but it's a special ability. So this is like a taunt, for example. Opening shot is, you know, I can buff my group, for example, and it is also a 20-second cooldown. Most special abilities and the elite abilities have a 20-second cooldown. The big difference with the special abilities is they're not on the global cooldown. You can activate them at any time, and usually gives you some kind of buff or a debuff for the enemies, things like that. All you have to do is kind of read the descriptions, and you can see exactly what they're good for. Your ultimate goal, of course, is to get to the capstone for your favorite weapon, which starts giving you stacking buffs, and that, of course, makes you more and more powerful. You're only going to get to the capstone once you've unlocked all of the skill lines. So you have a lot of work ahead of you if you want to get through this very quickly. You tend to focus on your favorite weapon. It kind of sucks just a little bit at the start when you don't have that much AP to start really fanning out. You kind of need to focus fire on the weapon type that you sort of like. You get a lot of that at the very early in the game, where you start getting a lot of weapon bags, and quests start giving you loot that you can then get weapons out of, and then you can experiment with the weapon types that you want. Now, one caveat to all of these weapons: when you start your character, you will pick a class, quote-unquote class, and that class will start with specific weapons. I don't even remember what I started with, but I started with the assault rifle and the fist weapon. Now, assault rifle is a longer range DPS than, say, a shotgun. This is meant more for a pure DPS, but it also has a ton of healing abilities. So it's kind of like an off-healing sort of weapon. You can spec it to be full-on healing if you want. Fist weapon is also a very powerful healing weapon, but it also has a lot of very powerful offensive abilities, and of course it's melee range. So if you like melee and you like doing the Wolverine thing, this is kind of the weapon for you. Now, if you didn't play the old Secret World, the weapons you start with are the only two in this entire skill lineup through here that you will have unlocked. That means that you can immediately start putting points into any of the skills that you want. If you did not play the original Secret World, you have to buy your way into these skill trees. You can't just equip an elemental focus, for example, or a blade and start putting points in. You have to unlock it. So when you pick this, and say you're just like me, you started with the assault rifle and the fist weapon, you say, oh, I just found a nice looking sword. I go to equip it, it's going to ask you to unlock this using Marks of Favor or Aurum. So you're either going to get out your credit card, or you're going to have to wait a few days until you've built up enough Marks of Favor to unlock the skill line. So each one of these weapons, you consider it as a skill line that you have to unlock unless you played the original Secret World. If you did, all of the weapons will be unlocked automatically, and you can just immediately equip it and start putting your points wherever you want. That is the caveat to brand new players, is that they need to start slower and learn their main weapons, and then as they build up money, there is a cap to how much you can generally get per day on that, but they have made it cheaper in the last few patches. So at this point, it's only going to take you a couple of days to try out a different weapon type once you start getting into the game, start doing your quests, and start playing. So it's not too detrimental. It was a lot more expensive when this game first came out, and over the last few weeks they've made it a little bit easier to open up different weapon lines. They really want people to be able to have 3 or 4 different weapon lines open by the time they get out of the first area. And I think they've pretty much accomplished that goal. So that is how the active abilities work for your weapons. Now, the other tab here is the passive skills. Now, these are extremely, extremely important. Just like the original game, the passive skills can really change up the gameplay that you're going with. I can be very, very offensive with my shotgun with the right passives in place, or I can switch that up and be very good at actually healing people and gaining a lot of aggro, but not doing as much damage. Or I can even go full-on tank and be extremely defensive and be the ultimate tank that does very crappy DPS and doesn't have much self-healing. Now, down here are your equipped passives. As you can see, you only get 5. Now, these are it. You don't gain any extra anything. So at these 5, what this is for both of your weapons. Like I said, I have a shotgun and I use a fist weapon. And I have skills on my bar from my fist weapon. Actually, I only have 1, and it's a healing spell. Now, my shotgun, I also have a healing, it's an emergency heal, but my fist weapon, I have Feral Regrowth. Feral Regrowth is nice, but I also went ahead and took a fist weapon passive that gains basically an extra heal over time effect anytime that I heal myself, and it stacks, which is really great for keeping myself up. But this is all you get, and this counts between both of your weapons. It doesn't matter what is in your main hand or your offhand. These work when you use the skill that's attached to that passive. So as you go across, you're going to see that you're always going to have to take the very first skill here. You're going to have to take this. You don't have to equip it into a slot, but you have to unlock it. Now, you're unlocking stuff in the passive tree with your skill points. Or at least that's what I'm calling it, skill points. You earn SP and AP just from gaining experience. You have little hash marks. You can't see it because I'm level 50 and the bar turned yellow, but as you're leveling, you'll see the little hash marks will be different colored. This one will have a little yellow hash mark on the experience bar. This one will have a little blue hash mark. Every time you pass a hash mark, you're going to gain AP and SP. And it'll keep track of it up here at the top right of your screen. You can see that you can, in fact, see how much you're carrying around. They both cap out at 50, but if you earn SP or AP above 50, you didn't realize that you were sitting at 48 points, and you earned 5, it's going to put it above 50. So you're not going to waste any points, but it's not going to let you continue to keep gaining that until you start spending them. So make sure to kind of just start spending. There's no reason to hold on to any of the points until later. I know some people might want to hold on to like 300 points and then you click, but it's really at a disadvantage because of the way this is set up. You're always going to have the first skill in every single passive tree. As you can see, there is a skill that you have to take first that opens up every skill line in the passive tree. Now, these little tiny circles here, they all give you a stat boost. Now, these give you a stat boost regardless of the weapon. This is unlocked for your entire character. So, as you can see, the top one here, 17 attack rating. That's applied to my character forever, whether I'm using the shotgun or not. Whether it's not something I can equip, it's just automatically a stat boost. And as you can see over here, it actually says stat booster. So each one of these lines is preceded by something that is a low cost but highly useful stat boosting passive. The giant squares you see are the ones that you can actively equip, and each line does something completely different for your weapon, whether it's pure damage, whether it's enhancing, like for example my shots and my shells and my shell types, how many I get, or if I'm enhancing my healing, so my healing gets a little bit better. But each line focuses on something a little bit different, and it's kind of up to you to go through each one and kind of, you know, get an idea of what's this do, what's this do, what's this do. And as you go along, you see that there are more of the little tiny stat boosters in between, and some have 2, like this one has 2 before I get there. But all of these stat boosts, these little tiny circles that you see, are permanently unlocked for your entire character. So if you go through every single weapon tree and unlock every single little stat booster, at the end of the game, you're going to have quite a very large stat pool and a lot of health, a lot of damage, and things like that. So it's very important that you also spend your SP as soon as you get it to start focusing on getting your stat boosts up and going after the passives that you definitely think that you're going to find useful for the weapon type that you're using. And once you get it all filled out, you can move on immediately to the next weapon. You don't have to have these weapons equipped to start unlocking any of this stuff in the tree. You can just put your points into it even if you're not using it. I would suggest that you focus mostly at the beginning on the weapon that you are finding the most useful and then go from there. Now, if at any time you're actually getting confused about any of this, you can actually hit this little arrow up here. This is a video that will play to explain kind of how the shotgun works. You can also hit the question mark, and it's going to bring up basically every bit of information about the weapon type that you have selected. So this talks about my heavy munitions. It talks about the types of ammo that I can load and how all of that works. And this is for every single weapon. You get an idea of the gimmick that they have. So the blade, for example, you have the spirit blade, and it tells you all about it. The hammer talks about the rage and things like that. So very useful information. A lot of people might miss this because it is kind of up here out of the way. And that is pretty much it. You can equip these passives down here. Like I said, you can see you can only use 5. And obviously I focus very heavily on my shotgun abilities. So 4 out of the 5 are indeed for the shotgun by itself. And but this is by no means the end-all be-all. There are tons of different ideas out there, and that was usually the same thing that happened in the original Secret World, is people would come up with different combinations of the best, quote-unquote, the best passives to use for a specific build. The biggest difference here is that none of these passives are going to work except with the weapon that they're attached to. The old Secret World would say, oh, you'd have hurt me more. It would increase damage on critical hits, for example. Well, hell yeah, that works with any weapon. It doesn't say specifically only shotgun critical hits, but now it basically does. It's only going to be a specific passive to boost a specific skill that only shotguns have. Now, like I said, to make up for that, that's what these little circles are. That's what these little stat boosting miniature passive skills are for. They're sort of to make up for that loss of, you could say, diversity in the builds by making it to where, well, at least you're going to get some good stats whether or not you're using that weapon or not, or having any equipped passives from this tree or not. You're still going to be able to do something with your points, and it's going to be useful to you overall. And so, in a nutshell, that is more or less exactly what they've changed with the weapons. You just have skill trees that are active abilities. You go across each one, you get to the end, and then you can upgrade the capstone to give you bigger boosts. And again, these boosts here are passive. That doesn't matter if you're using fists. I'm still going to gain this even if I'm not using fists. So all of these nice little capstone boosts to your stats are very useful. Things definitely start getting harder as you go through the game. I think it's a much better linear progression than before, and just because of the way they've set the game up with the levels and things like that. Now, you don't have to worry that once you hit 50 that you're out of points. You never stop gaining AP or SP even once you've hit max level. I'm still gaining it, as you can see, and I'm definitely at max level. Right down there you can see next AP, next SP. That's how much experience I need to gain the next points. So don't ever worry that you're going to run out of any of this. You can unlock everything in the game for every weapon, every active skill, every passive skill, and it's just going to take you a little bit of time. Now you can see I'm hitting max level, and I'm not even halfway through the game yet. So you do level quite quickly. Now, I am a patron. As you can see, this is lit up. Patron benefits gain me a little bit more experience a little bit quicker. Other bonuses, you have to decide whether or not you think it's worth it. I think it's worth it, but everyone is different. But being a patron doesn't really give you anything statistically over not being a patron. It just speeds things up. And speaking of speeding things up, I will mention, you see this little plus sign here on the active and an SP. Well, look at that. If you have Aurum, which is what you use for real money, you can buy more skill points. You can also buy more active abilities. You can buy the active points here, ability points. You can buy them. And as you can see, at 3,000 Aurum apiece, it's going to get expensive to try to wallet warrior your way through the game like this. You can. It's technically, it's not really giving you much of an advantage. It will at the short term, because obviously you're going to have more skills unlocked a little bit quicker. But that's, at the end of the day, all you're doing. You're getting there faster, but everybody that's free to play, whether they're buying this or they're just playing the game normally, are going to get to the same point. Everyone's going to get to the party eventually. It's just how fast do you want to unlock all of this. On PvP, I could see that might be discouraging, because somebody that has wallet worried their way all the way through all of the weapons and unlocked all of the passives and they got all of the stat boosts will have an advantage in PvP. As far as I know, I haven't done any of it yet, but in the end, I don't think that is really going to be an issue for long. Yeah, at the beginning, first month, people aren't going to have quite as many skill points. They're not going to have as many points put into their passive skills. But at the end of the day, further down the road where it actually matters, when there's enough people that are playing, whether you wallet warrior or not, everyone's going to have the same stuff. Everyone's going to have everything unlocked on the active abilities and the passive skills. And so really all they did is spent money to get a few weeks ahead of everybody else. And honestly, in a game like this, where the stats are not nearly as detrimental to how well you perform, it's more based on your skill with the weapons and the basically the build that you have come up with your abilities and your passives. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. But that is all I'm going to say about that. Everyone has their own opinion on what is pay to win and what is not. And I try not to get into the middle of it because, well, you know, I don't really PvP and I'm not worried about it. But anyway, that is it for this video. That is all that you need to know about getting started with your weapons. That's what the active abilities are all about. That's what all the passive skills are all about and how you unlock them. If you have any questions, though, please leave a comment down below. Ask me. I will reply as soon as I can. And if I don't know the answer, I will get you an answer. If it takes another video to explain something away because it's too confusing, I'll do that too. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, if I helped you out, please press the like button down below. It does help out my channel. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel, you can click at the bottom of your screen right now, and that'll get you all the latest updates every time I upload something new to my channel. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care, and I'll talk to you all next time.